Ready?
I don't know why I'm like conditioned to laugh every time we start our intro, but
it makes it fun.
I'm a professional. Good.
Okay. Welcome to the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
That's Ashley.
That's Kim. We're here to recap and relive our favorite moments from GyeongSeong Creature 2. What is with the... Welcome to the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
That's Ashley.
That's Kim. We're here to recap and relive our favorite moments of GyeongSeong Creature 2, Episode 5.
With you, our listeners. We're gonna jump right in. So this is your one and only warning. Spoilers are incoming, so if you haven't yet, go watch Episode 5 and then come meet back up here with us so we can talk about this episode together.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode is titled The Creature Between Curse and Blessing. So we witness the undoing of the House of Golden Treasure by Lady Maeda as revenge upon Taesong. Taesong was given the najin by Lady Maeda in an attempt to force him into proximity with her. Taesong is brought to JeonSeong by SeungJo and forced to make a choice to survive with the najin or die in front of the woman he loves. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to the KDrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive, and we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
GyeongSeong. Like I haven't said it 500,000 times in the past.
That's why it's so difficult. It's like when you say the same word over and over again, it stops sounding like a word.
Or like when you stare at the spelling of something that you know is correct. Just the look you gave me.
Oh, I was this close to having water come out my nose. Would you like to plug the
The Tashley E?
The Tashley E.
I don't know about the Tashley E, but I know about the Ashley T.
I'm glad you do.
Yes, the Ashley T is on Instagram at the KDrama Show. There's just a few videos. I'm trying to be better at actually getting on there. But we are going to start doing a shout out to anybody who follows us on Instagram. So you have to follow on Instagram in order to get a shout out. And we'll just do it at some random time throughout the episode. So you have to stay tuned to find and hear your name.
Alternatively, another way that you can get a shout out is if you leave us a rating on Spotify or YouTube and you leave us a comment as well. And then we'll shout you out that way. So there are multiple ways that you can engage with us and our content.
Please do.
We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay.
Recap. Episode 4. So, we learned that Yeongil was the one to attack HoJae and Chaeok has been captured. SeungJo and Taesong form an unlikely alliance to get Taesong out of the hospital away from the police because they are coming in heavy. SeungJo implores HoJae to remember, which he eventually does, and we get to walk through some of his memories of House of Golden Treasure and his time with, the team there.
Mm-hmm.
Chaeok is approached by a scary dude who reveals that the one behind the entire operation is Lady Maeda, and Onsung Hospital lives on as JeonSeong Biotech.
Okay, quick PSA. This is the most, at least from my current recollection, this is the most intense graphic episode.
At least she warned you guys.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sensitive.
But if that is something that really does bother you, maybe skip over this episode and...
At least the first half. Well...
First 20 minutes at least.
I don't know, the whole thing is very
violent. It's a far more, gory, intense,
and
violent.
It's not just the mindless violence, there's people we love.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So.
Yes.
Just wanted to throw that out there for you guys.
For you guys, not for me.
I might get beat after this.
Oh, yeah, right.
She takes the pillow from behind her.
You better walk away really, like, at a moderate pace to get away from me when we're done recording.
I'll just have my phone click at you.
Okay, so episode 5, The Creature Between Curse and Blessing. So this first topic is called The Letter. But we open with Taesong at the House of Golden Treasure, who has received a letter, and it's been delivered on his desk, and it says, "I'll meet you at the Moonlight Bar." Mm-hmm. And this is a bit unsettling for everyone because no one actually knows how the letter got on his desk. Like, Nawal, the one who would be the one to have delivered it, it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But he decides to go to the meeting, and at the door of the bar, he is met by the owner, and she basically just pleads with him,
"Please
don't go in.
Yeah.
This is not going to end well for you. It's her. Like, it's that woman." And so Taesong, he enters the bar, and he's looking around, and waiting in this, like, smoky, dimly lit bar is Lady Maeda. And she still has traces of the burns from the explosion at Ishikawa's funeral. And very simply just asks for an apology. Like, hey, we're friends. You know, I get it was whatever, but you need to apologize to me.
Well, she doesn't ask for it. She demands.
Mm-hmm. As she does.
Because she is Lady Maeda.
She is Lady Maeda. Anytime that you insist on being called Lady something something, you're probably a handful. But he defends himself, saying it was a memorial to those that were lost at Unsong. But Lady Maeda confides in him, saying that she had truly valued him as a friend, and all he does is constantly reject her. And he states that she doesn't really seek to understand him, so it's basically an impossibility that they're ever going to have a relationship of any kind. Mm-hmm. And just says, you need to go back to your country, so please do that now.
Like, I don't ever want to see you again.
Yeah. But as Taesong moves to leave, the assassins block his way. And back at House of Golden Treasure, Mr. Gu, Bomo, and Mrs. Nawal are in a fight of their own as the assassins also are closing in on them. Mr. Gu, he retrieves a pistol. It buys them a little bit of time, right? But it's far too late for that. They're cornered.
Right.
Taesong's own struggle is really starting to go poorly. But first we see Bomo, then Mr. Gu, and then Taesong himself each take a series of blades to their abdomens.
Yeah.
Taesong, he takes like 10 hits before he actually... And it's not just like a slice. It's like
impaling.
Skewered. Yeah. But before he falls to the ground, Mr. Gu, back at House of Golden Treasure, he moves to help the fallen Miss Nawal, but she's kind of slipped away into unconsciousness. And the men are tied with ropes around their necks. But Taesong is brought before Lady Maeda, who states that she believes friendships are a give and take. Which brings us to topic 2, which I called revenge.
Well, she doesn't just say it's give and take. It's about blind loyalty until the end, while exchanging favors. That is not friendship.
That's slavery.
Yeah.
That is a parasitic relationship, which is ironic given
bizarre
some of the motifs.
But she actually brings out a vial in front of him, and there's this little teeny tiny najin swimming around inside. And Taesong then wakes up at House of Golden Treasure, and he is kind of Carrie level covered in blood, kind of like Cheok had been. And he is trying to just grasp what's going on around him, and he finds Miss Nawal, and he's like, okay, it seems like you might be okay. We might survive
alive.
this. Like, you're breathing, trying to, get some water. And as he turns to find water, he looks up, and that's when he sees that Mr. Gu and Bomo are hanging from the railing. And this is when he, starts to get sick and begins to vomit. And as he's doing so, we see that there's a najin moving up his neck into his brain. So when Miss Nawal comes to, she's asking, Taesong, are you okay? Like, where are you? And he's like, I don't feel very good. Like, I need water. And she's like, okay, I'll get some water for you. And as she slightly moves forward, she stops, and we see that she's kind of terrified because Taesong is actually in front of her, like, ready to strike because the najin is in complete control right now. And it is everything within him to hold himself back. And he's like, please run. Like, I need you to get away. And she just looks at him and kind of just like a mother, because that's been his mom figure for so long. She goes, I'm going to be okay. I understand. You have my permission. And then, so we know that he has an unfortunate part in.
It's just so heartbreaking to see him knowing, I mean, Mr. Gu and Bomo were lifeless and cold and clearly past the point of return, but like his desperate attempts at trying to save them, it just felt like such a what was it all for kind of moment.
Right, why did I fight?
And you as the viewer, I typically would view this as kind of like this was unnecessary, but I don't know that it was, simply because it's character building upon whom Lady Maeda is. I think I don't know. It didn't seem it didn't seem senseless, because it just further builds upon the idea that she's a predator. Right. And will always prey upon those weaker than her.
Well, and she will always come after Taesong, who she believes should be devoted solely to her.
Yep. So she was removing those barriers in her mind, but she just planted seeds of
resentment,
deep anger,
bitterness.
Yeah. But yeah, the maternal love there between Taesong and Mrs. Nawal was really heavy in this moment.
Like, you could see it even more than season 1, when she finds out that he had known all along that she was the one who gave up his mom.
Yeah. And I think that's her recompense.
Yeah.
Like, this is her way of reconciling the fact that she kind of was responsible for the death of his mother in a way. And also just being there for him in his time of need. I think she wanted him to be the last person she saw.
Yeah. If it's going to happen, you're the only one that it would be okay.
Yeah. And the thing that I thought was kind of cruel about it, in a way, I thought I was selfish, because it's like, okay, cool, well, now he has to live with the fact that he killed you.
Yeah.
But
thanks.
I understand the sentiment there. So, but topic 3, which I forgot to name, but we'll call it Lady Maeda.
All right.
But she is donning just this snow white dress, kind of a juxtaposition to the immense amounts of bloodshed that just took place. But she's also donning leather gloves to conceal her scars, but her face is now healed. So she says, people often think they will find happiness once they have everything. No, when you have everything, you get bored. You get bored and become apathetic to everything, and that's why you turn to destruction. Whenever I see fear and rage in someone's eyes, I remember that I am alive. Cool,
Yikes.
So she's a psychopath.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, you want to talk about true crime, people? Yeah, again, it just goes on to further build into this idea that she is the predator. And it's only being heightened by the fact that she's now dealing with najin.
Yeah, they've just fine-tuned her desire.
Yeah, but Taesong is injured again, and this time he's in JeonSeong, and Lady Maeda is standing before Silverbill once again. But Lady Maeda claims that she's gained clarity now that Cheok is here. And she says she tells Cheok that the only reason that she's alive, as well as that Taesong is alive, is because of what they're doing at JeonSeong. And in this moment, Cheok realizes that Taesong was also experimented upon with the najin. And she moves to attack Lady Maeda, but Scary Dude pins her to the ground. Do you know why hell is a dreadful place? Because it never ends. He and I didn't become friends, so I decided to become his hell instead. A woman scorned.
Honey.
Oh my gosh.
Yikes.
Don't be like Lady Maeda.
No, she's a very, very bad role model.
She's got great skin though.
She's still a terrible person. She's horrible.
She's scary. But this next topic we'll call cherry blossoms.
Ooh, okay. So Chaeok, after this horrible encounter of her enemy that she thought was dead, is taken into a room. And as she's being taken down, our scary guy asks Lady Maeda, why are you throwing Chaeok into this? Why is she becoming part of this experiment now? And Lady Maeda tells him this, it is 79 years in the making, and this is my revenge. Girl. Yikes.
You need a hobby. Well, she does. It's killing people.
We need a new hobby.
Take up knitting or crocheting or...
You can make really pretty things. Maybe try cooking.
Or even, like archery if you want to go kill animals.
With a permit. Anyway. So in the room where Chaeok is, one of the walls becomes clear and she's able to see through and see Taesong laying on the floor. And she is realizing what terrible shape that he is in and is trying to get his attention by banging on the wall and begging for him to stay put. And in the same time, SeungJo is looking down at HoJae and going, you know what, you can decide whether or not you're going to die in front of that woman over there. Or you can make a decision and you can save her. So HoJae actually asks him, am I able to beat you if I go back? Will I be able to save her? And SeungJo just goes, it's a possibility. It would be more realistic if you go in the water. That's the only way that would ever happen.
He's entertained by the idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's I don't know, let's find out.
Yeah, how about you jump in? Let me know. So then HoJae actually looks at the water again, and Chaeok, she's starting to look at the water too, and is realizing that in the water there is a najin as well. Which she realizes very quickly that this is going to be bad. Get out. Run. Don't go in the water. And he is making his way to the water.
Well, he says to SeungJo, though, if I do this, will I be able to save her?
Mm-hmm.
And then SeungJo says the same thing. He's like, maybe. But he's less entertained this time. He's
right. I don't care about her.
She's a liability, man.
She's not my problem.
Yeah. Don't make her your problem, too, because that greatly reduces your chances of getting out of here in one piece. Also, we're going to have to fight Korean Drax, so.
And the army that they have.
Well, they don't know about the army yet.
Well, she does. But yeah, I guess HoJae doesn't.
I mean, he does and he doesn't.
Well, he knows who they
probably
are.
knows you're going to come.
Right.
But.
So yeah, he makes his way into the water, and then the wall clouds, and Chaeok is no longer able to see what is going on.
I must have looked away right when that happened, because I was like, why is there a wall there now? Okay.
Yeah, so it clouds again.
Okay.
And so then she's unable to see, and she...
Have you ever seen those windows in real life?
No, but they kind of freak me out, the idea of them.
Cool.
They're fascinating, but also
do they work off of magnetism?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. But it also makes me think of that scene in King the Land where she has to go to the bathroom really badly.
Yes.
She's just playing with the wall, and he walks by what did I just see? And she's taking a deuce in this really fancy toilet that's bigger than my house. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
That's a great show though. Yes, so HoJae is in the water, and the najin enters HoJae, and it begins to repair his body, and then at the same time repairs his brain and his mind, so that all of his memories are brought back. Chaeok turns to Korean Drax and says, let me out. You will let me out now.
Which brings us to topic 5, which I will call the hunt.
The hunt, yeah. So yes, she throws him through the door. Like, not through, but kind of through. Like,
she breaks the door.
Wall door Korean Drax. Like, it just...
Yeah, she's kicking butt.
It has become unlocked. You don't mess with this side.
Well, and they were waiting for her too with the nitrogen. Like, they had the gas masks. There were like 4 of them ready, and they were like already spraying it when she had kicked him through the wall. So it's kind of like they were anticipating her being a problem, I think.
But also, this is somebody who's had a lot of practice out in the real world for a really long time.
Before she even had the najin in her.
Right.
And she has the mature najin, which I think
there's a difference.
They've started to imply that these najin are stronger, and seem to the symbiosis seems to be more powerful between them. We still don't know if like SeungJo hears his najin talk, but we know that Chaeok does.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. I think we need to delve into more. I hope they give us more information about it. But SeungJo realizes that Taesong has disappeared in the tank, and there's only bubbles that are like sinking to the floor, which is a little weird to begin with because bubbles don't usually sink.
I thought they were it was something that he had, like the residual handcuff
chains. Is that what it was?
I think because
gosh, I thought they were bubble rings.
I think it was
Maybe
the
I need
residual
new glasses. I do need to go to the eye doctor. Anyway. But behind SeungJo is a very strong, recovered, healed Taesong, who looks like he's very not happy be here.
I have HoJae is now ruthless.
Yeah. But like he is there and he's ready to throw down. And so he grabs SeungJo by like the collar, I think. And they kind of start to go to blows, and he like shoves SeungJo across the room. And SeungJo stands up and he tries to like tentacle him. Well, he like grabs the tentacle and rips him over. And so obviously Taesong is quite formidable.
Yeah.
But he starts to ask where. Oh, but when he yanks him in, he like punches him in the stomach. You're like, oh my gosh, your spleen just exploded. I'm so sorry.
I will never make you mad.
Yeah, or breaks his hip. But he asks where Chaeok is, and she is busy battling Korean Drax. Right, so she's found a gas mask of her own, probably ripped it off another
so the guy
henchman.
The guy that had gone in, she has his gas mask on and is holding him in front of her. So when Korean Drax walks in, she drops that body. That's how she's able to actually...
Yeah, but she already had a mask on.
Yeah, from the guy that had gone in before.
Yeah, and so SeungJo walks out of the room to find that all of the guards just been, like, annihilated.
There's another trail of carnage.
Yeah, but he tells Scary Dude, he calls him and says, hey, the najin is inside of HoJae again. Just thought I would let you know. Which is against their plan. This was kind of Scary Dude's initial fear when Lady Maeda brought him into this whole situation. He's like, this is gonna really derail things, and she's like, no, this is it. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And she says, you need to bring Taesong here, and Chaeok is to be executed. Dun dun dun. But that brings us to topic 6, which we will call the boss.
So Detective No is actually in HoJae's building, and she's looking at what looks like it's a break-in. And the informant, the older woman, comes in and basically is like, why are you here? Who do you think you are? Do you have a type of relationship with them where you can just walk into their home?
Well, I think she knows too, because the whole altercation there was happening while she was outside the door downstairs. So she technically has probable cause, but
right.
I don't know how that works in Korea.
I don't know. But she's like, I'm gonna call the police on you, and she's scolding Detective No, and she's like, no, it's okay, like, I'm a police officer. And she's like, then give me your phone, like, I'm calling your captain.
I love this conversation.
Okay. Sure. And so she does. She calls Captain Yu, and he's like, hello. And she goes, what do you think you're doing?
She calls him by his name.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a no-no. between people you don't know.
So clearly they know each other in some capacity. If she knows his name.
Maybe.
Well, because the detective didn't tell. She just said it's Captain Yu, and she goes, oh, let me talk to him. So she already knew who he was. That's probably from cases before that HoJae had helped on that, I mean, she's been an informant for him for quite some time.
Yeah, that's true.
So she probably knew him, but yeah, there was a little bit of scolding.
I love the fact that Detective Jisoo is like, or Detective No is like, yeah, we're investigating him as a criminal, you know, a potential suspect. And she goes, well, you people are always chasing down the wrong leads.
You don't know what you're doing.
Whoops. Yikes. But scary dude. Speaking with Korean Drax and SeungJo. And we learned that the creatures can actually build up a resistance to nitrogen if they're exposed to it enough times. And apparently, HoJae was pretty unstoppable back when he, quote, flipped out. Okay. But the only one who could stop him is probably the boss. Or if they release number 71, which is the kid downstairs, or the grandson of the informant that we just saw speaking to the captain. But Scary Dude then orders them to release the Kukuros, which brings us to topic 7. I don't know what to call it. It's topic 7.
It's topic 7. Our main characters are amazing fighters, and it is terrifying.
The choreography was really nice.
Yeah, it was very well done. None of it is something that I could do because I have no desire to put that much effort into something that strenuous. But they are basically each fighting their own horde of the Kukuros, and they're looking for each other. And Lady Maeda is watching all of this on the security system that they have set up, so all the CCTVs, but one by one the cameras are going out. And then we just hear HoJae say, I don't know what came over me, but everything faded away. What I was fighting for, my original purpose, even the rage I once felt. None of that could overcome a certain yearning inside of me. I was existing, but I was not living. I just wanted to see her again. I wanted to embrace her and hold her in my arms, even if it was just one more time, if it meant I could see you, if it meant I could touch you again. And it was just so, like, we wanted that at the end of season 1. And that was everything he didn't say at season 1. And we're like, finally, we're getting to hear you say it.
Still not to her, dang it.
Not to her yet. But he is pinned up against a wall, and Chaeok actually finds him first. And they both continue to fight. And
they're both desperately trying to reach one another.
Right. Where are you, basically? Like,
he's like, if we're gonna die, I at least have to see you and hold you in my arms one more time.
Like
now.
Now. Immediate, please.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that's giving him, like, the strength to fight against this horde of zombie vampires right now.
I still like zombie vampire better than Kukuros. But Taesung turns and stabs the next person that's coming at him, and it is actually Chaeok. And we get our cherry blossom.
He doesn't just stab her. He shoves a pipe through her shoulder.
Ow.
Yeah, it looks awful.
Yeah. But she reaches out and touches his face and just goes, it's you.
And then collapses.
And
I was like, do not tell me they just killed her. I will lose my mind if they killed off literally every single character in this one episode. I was a little bit traumatized from the beginning of this
episode. That's fair.
Because they made it look the exact same. They paralleled it to the scene after Seishin had stabbed through Chaeok's stomach in the first season. I was like, don't you dare!
Please, I can't.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Okay. Anyway. Topic 8, which I call Double Agent. As Lady Maeda is, like, watching on the cameras, we see SeungJo start to take them out. And he pauses to kill a Kukuro before approaching Taesung and Chaeok. But as Scary Dude and Korean Drax are approaching the scene, we see SeungJo has actually had the pipe shoved through his abdomen, And he's kind of hunched over, leaning against a pillar, and he says, they were too strong, even for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Scary Dude's just like, okay, well, we've got to readdress it. But it has all been staged. He tells Scary Dude that Chaeok and Taesong have escaped out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And Scary Dudes are like, all right, we got to rally. We got to go block them at the next possible exit. And as he moves to leave, he notices on the ground that one of the Kukuros has SeungJo's signature kill through his head. A tentacle stab. And Chaeok is with SeungJo, actually, in that corridor, just hiding around the corner. And Taesong is busy, like, madman sprinting down the halls, trying to lead all of the remaining Kukuros away from Chaeok and SeungJo. But we flash back to moments earlier when this plan was being set in motion, right? SeungJo tells them that they need to move, they need to get out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And Taesong actually begs SeungJo for help, who tells him that he should take Tunnel 5 out of the building. He says, do you remember it? And Taesong's like, yeah. And then he says that SeungJo should help Chaeok escape. So this is an interesting shift in dynamic between these two, where we see trust.
Mm-hmm.
And now that Taesong has his memories back, we know that there was a relationship there.
Right.
We don't quite understand the nature of it, but it brings a lot more clarity to that moment where SeungJo was fighting Chaeok in the sewers, and he sees HoJae for the first time, and where I was like, it almost looks like affection, like I thought you were dead. Now we're kind of seeing some of that being like fleshed out a little bit better,
right?
And it was kind of cool. I don't know. I was glad he's not a bad guy,
I was waiting.
I actually really like him.
Yeah, he's such a dynamic character. Like, he's
kept the plot moving.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a bad guy. He kills a lot of people.
He's a serial killer. Not good.
But he's not a Lady Maeda.
No. And so yeah, no. I like his character a lot.
You know what I just realized? Isn't Lady Maeda like technically his stepmom? Because his dad is Ishikawa.
Yeah.
That poor guy.
I know. How sad.
I'm so glad he had Taesong. But this brings us to topic 9, which is my final topic, which I called Mousetrap.
So our scary guy is actually waiting for Taesong to show up at the place that SeungJo had said, hey, this is the direction that they took off. Mm-hmm. And instead, Korean Drax runs up, and that's when they realized that there was a different route that Taesong had taken instead. And he demands that SeungJo be brought to him. Like, there's something going on there. And we actually follow SeungJo, and he has found Taesong, and Taesong is waiting for him. And he gives him some clothes and says, you need to follow this tunnel. She will be waiting there for you. And Taesong, pats his head, and he's like, stop, like, I'm not a kid. Like, don't do that.
It's a very Big Brother move.
I have the father-son or older brother-younger brother relationship is very apparent.
Yeah.
Like, it's just... And SeungJo goes to leave, and he turns back, and he tells him, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you a year ago. Before he leaves. And so then Taesong changes his clothes and goes out the way that he is told to go. And it's like through like the subway station, all these back alleys, and finally gets to the point where he sees across the street that Chaeok is sitting on a bench and waiting for him. And he goes to her, and they just like stand and stare at each other because it's been 79 years. Thanks, Lady Maeda, for that timeline update. But for like 79 years, she thought he had died of just living life. For him, he had already mourned her loss. Mm-hmm. And so we finally get their kiss for this season of just like we found each other. Finally.
Yeah. I loved this shot. Was just really lovely. And I know I've heard actors say, like, whenever they do the wide shots, it's really nice because you feel like you're in that moment and you don't have all of the equipment
right here
around.
on you.
And you feel like you can actually be in that moment delivering a performance and connecting, like, with the other actor.
Right.
And so for them to have that wide shot from across the street while they're having this really intimate moment where we don't quite get to see just what's happening on their face, it lends itself kind of similar in the way, and I'm going to reference The Office because we've already talked about Jim Halpert, the proposal, where you don't hear it.
Yeah.
And because anything that they would tell you would not live up to the expectation, right?
Right.
But when we can just imagine it, we're like, oh, it was perfect.
There were
And so whatever
rainbows and
was happening on their faces, it was perfect. Like,
Right.
that's their moment. And the privacy of that, I felt like, was really just like...
chef's kiss. It was
nice.
so needed.
Yeah, and it felt like we could be like, oh, yeah, give them a moment to go have their
Little
reunion.
Oh.
Yeah. Episode 11. Character of curiosity.
I think SeungJo a little bit more. SeungJo and HoJae together. I want to know their background now. We got a lot of things answered for HoJae Taesong's character in this episode, so we know what he's gone through now.
Yeah.
Why he is the way he is. So him, agreeing to go back in and have the najin again, that cleaned up so many, things that could be fuzzy or like we had no idea what was going on. But also like Lady Maeda, what you've been doing. I mean, clearly you've been building an empire,
army, yeah.
and killing people. Like, that's just who you are.
Favorite pastime.
Yeah, that's just
We've
normal.
established.
Who are yours?
I think I would agree with the SeungJo Taesong dynamic. I want to see more of that because I really like it now. But you know me, I'm a fan of the bromance.
Yeah.
I still want to know what Chaeok was doing and what her little fix for not eating people's faces is and how she came across that.
Yeah.
My other thing would be Taesong's time in the army, what that was like. I had one more. Oh, yeah, I want to know how they engineered these new najin to give them the tentacles. I want to know how they engineered them to live halfway between the Seishin and halfway between the Myeongja. Because clearly Chaeok and Taesong do not have that.
Right. They have a lot of capabilities.
They have the strength, they have the peering and the sight and the whatever, but they don't have the tentacles.
Yeah, they have the regeneration, but they don't have the...
And also the tentacles are not disfigured like
how Seishin was. Yeah.
So I want to know what's going on with that side of the experiment. And also what kind Lady Maeda took and where she got hers. Because obviously I think she gave hers to Taesong because she wasn't healed yet when she gave Taesong the najin. She hadn't taken it because she was still disfigured.
Right. And it had been 2 years since they had seen each other.
Yeah.
So it would be completely within the realm.
That hers ended up with him.
Yeah, that's I mean, and it probably would have matured at that point, just like left in its natural state.
Well, it was still a baby because it was so...
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, sorry. It was so little
when
she showed it to him.
Yeah, compared to the one that Chaeok has. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that Chaeok has is like scaly, like segments.
Right, it's longer and...
It's like a tapeworm.
Love that imagery.
Actually, it's more like a hookworm.
But
final thoughts?
The crescendo is like, yeah, the crescendo really was them finally reuniting. The very end of the episode was just like we needed the build up to that of like Chaeok knowing and being pretty sure like this is the person that I've loved and I've lost, and but also it probably isn't. And no, it was just gruesome as this episode is, because it is very intense and there's a lot of violence in it. It pushed the story that much farther.
That they knew to give us that sigh of relief at the end, because I think this episode would have been
way too much if
they hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was still a lot.
Yeah.
I had this silly optimism that everybody at House of Golden Treasure died of old age, but I should know better by now with this show.
Yeah, with this one.
So,
okay. Oh, I was gonna do my shout out, but you finish your thought.
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, do your thought. Your thought.
It's gone. It's gonna be an interesting next episode.
Shout out to our follower on Instagram, my_legacy_creations. Thanks. We appreciate it.
I have to send this episode to her now. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time. Sometimes I Jim help at the camera, but I don't like to make it a point to talk to the camera, if that makes sense.
You mean breaking the fourth wall isn't your normal response?